speaking of emotional fitness program, it's part of my emotional fitness program. It's cathartic for me to share my lessons. One of the things that I talk about and that I've done on a lot of other podcasts is go aped, APED, acknowledge, give yourself permission to feel, express, and discuss. One of the huge parts of getting emotional healing is discussing it with somebody. And as a podcaster, I'm discussing it with all of you, my own emotional growth journey, my lessons learned, that, my takeaways. And so it's been very helpful also to, so number one, I'm learning a lesson, but then you learn it differently when you're communicating it to somebody else. It's a whole nother level of refinement and ownership and understanding when, again, not only am I assimilating it for application in my own life, but then now I've got to put it in such a way that hopefully communicates value to those folks that are, tuning into the YouTube channel and podcast. So for me, it's part of my ongoing emotional fitness program. What is going on, EQ gangsters? So this is episode 200, y'all. And for those y'all on YouTube, you can see Mama Sita is here with me to do episode 200. For those y'all that are on the podcast, I've got my awesome wife with me, and we're going to knock out this 200th episode, y'all.
Yes, I was so excited. I thought it's only appropriate for me to come on here and do episode 200 with him since I started the podcast with him. So we thought episode 200 would be a great time to just look at where we've come from. But I've got some really good questions. Today, I am going to be interviewing Noble. And these are not the regular kind of interview questions that he gets on other podcasts. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into a couple topics, some questions I think that he rarely gets asked. So I'm super excited to do this.
Me too. This is great, y'all. You ready? Hey, also want to thank you all for the support, being a part of the, for many of you, the 200th episode. Some of y'all obviously joined in various stages of the podcast. If you have not gone back and reviewed or checked out some of the previous interviews and some of the previous topics, really would encourage you to go back and check out some of those previous topics, because there's a lot of phenomenal content in there that's very real, very raw, and very actionable as well. Thank you all for letting me be a part of your emotional growth journey, and for you guys being a part of my emotional growth journey. As you know, this whole podcast is literally my emotional growth journey, just in a podcast, sharing the junk in my trunk, my lessons learned, that kind of thing, action steps, things that have worked for me to actually help transform my own life, and that I just pass on and share with you all as well. And again, some phenomenal interviews. In fact, just, so you guys know, I know this will be coming out here on Thursday, and I'm probably backed up 14 or 15 interviews that I've got to do all the post-production stuff. And it's going to be some phenomenal interviews that are going to be hitting next year, the new year, that I'm really excited to share with you all. Thank you all for taking 30 seconds, 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds to rate and review our podcast.
If you haven't done that, could you do that? Would you go into Apple iTunes, wherever you listen to it, and just give us a 5-star? Hopefully you think it's a 5-star. Give us leave a review, because it helps. It helps to get the message out. It helps more people to see the podcast. So would you please, especially to commemorate this 200th episode, leave a review?
Yeah, that'd be super helpful. And then also, any of the episodes that you feel that you got some value, please think of maybe one other friend that could also get value, or a family member or a coworker that might also get impacted or blessed by that particular episode as well. That'd be super helpful also. All right, let's do it, babe.
Okay, so looking back over the last 200 episodes, which is no joke, y'all. It's pretty amazing. It's been almost just shy of 2 years Noble has been very consistent, putting out 2 episodes every single week since the podcast started. It started under the title of EQ for Entrepreneurs. We initially just kind of started as a niche only for bringing emotional intelligence to entrepreneurs, but we quickly found that the message was resonating with a whole lot of people, even outside the entrepreneur space. And so we had a chat with an awesome friend who does his company's called Fanfare. If you ever need help with branding, hit us up. We'll connect you. And he helped us come up with new branding. And that is where the EQ Gangster came from.
Shout out to big Alika Freitas, CEO, founder of Fanfare. It is awesome. He's got a gift, y'all, he's got a gift in branding. He's got a gift in experiences, experiential learning. He's just got a gift. That is definitely one of the many areas that he is gifted in. So Fanfare, and again, Alika Freitas helped us with the whole rebrand and everything. And everyone that I have talked to about the brand just loves it. They love the brand. Like, man, that is so unique. And then after they get done talking with me and they see me, a big, bald, bearded, tattooed, former 82nd Airborne Division guy, Ranger School guy, talking about emotional intelligence. That's what Alika's like. He's like, when I was asking him about how to do the rebrand and what he thinks and stuff, he's like, dude, how many big, bald, bearded, tattooed, former Army Airborne, 82nd Airborne Division Rangers are teaching about emotional intelligence? And I said, probably not too many. And he said, dude, he's like, when I talk to my friends, like, man, this guy's the gangster of EQ. He's like, dude, you're the EQ gangster. Right. And that's how I'm like,
it's just kind of how he talks anyways.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
it fits.
Anyway, it's been a game changer, right? So the EQgangster.com is the website. EQ Mafia is the membership. And then my corporate coaching is EQ Boss. So all fall under the umbrella there of EQ Gangster.
All right, let's get into the questions. So question number 1, what is the one thing, or what is just one thing, there's probably several, what is one thing that people get wrong that people get wrong about emotional intelligence all the time, right? Because what kind of things do you see that people have wrong about that whole concept or the idea of emotional intelligence?
So for those of you that are maybe just joining this whole podcast and everything, let me just very quickly define it. Emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware of, acknowledge, identify, process, and manage your emotions and the emotions of others for productive decision-making and outcomes for all parties involved. And that's why I define it. Now, Daniel Goleman is one of the OGs of emotional intelligence, and he wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence back in the day. And he kind of had 4 main areas that he coined: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, social management, or relational awareness, relational management. And then since then, now there's a lot of other emotional intelligence models out there. There's one that I'm certified on called EQI 2.0. It's an assessment that was put together. It assesses 15 different areas of emotional intelligence. And it's great for leaders because it talks about 2 areas that are very relevant to leaders: stress management and decision making, which makes that particular assessment very unique. All right, so just defining all that. So what do most people get wrong about EQ? And I guess after 200 episodes, it's the difference between, I read a book on EQ, so I got it. Or, I heard a podcast, or I watched a TED Talk on EQ, or I took an EQ course, so I've got it. Dude, I'm tracking. Super different head knowledge versus heart knowledge. Very different to know, to be aware of some. Man, I've watched UFC for 15 years now, maybe even I don't remember when I started, but it was way back in the days. And does that mean I can get in a ring and fight? I've been watching it forever, y'all. I've been watching CrossFit forever. Does that mean I do CrossFit? Does that mean I know how to do all the moves? Does that mean no. It just means I've watched UFC and I've watched CrossFit for a long time. Doesn't mean I'm doing it. Doesn't mean I know how to do it. Just means I know about it. So I think of the people, now there's a lot of people still that have no idea. Now, just so happens that the last 2 years, EQ, emotional health and emotional intelligence have never been talked about more than the last 2 years, because we're finding out the consequences of locking people up in the name of hashtag science, particular flavors of science that people listen to. And so that's great. We have locked up humanity, and we have discovered the silent pandemic of domestic abuse has tripled, the depression has tripled, suicide has tripled. All these consequences of locking up, isolating human, social, relational beings, there are consequences for that. And so, so anyway, emotional health, emotional intelligence, I'm going to talk about more. And so of the people who have heard about emotional intelligence, many of them, it's just that. Yes, I have heard about it. I read an article, I read a book, I heard a podcast. That does not mean they have done or are doing any type of consistent emotional work. And like I like to say too, the majority of people do not have a consistent emotional fitness program.
The thing that I would say that I've seen that people get wrong about emotional intelligence, just adding to what you said, is people think that it's only applicable for those who they deem to be overly emotional. So if somebody doesn't see themselves as, well, I don't ever lose control of my emotions, or I don't show a lot of emotions, so I don't need that, I must be very emotionally intelligent. And a lot of times it's not true. Maybe it's true, but a lot of times those people are just stuffing and avoiding, and they need it just as much as anybody else. So there's not one person that could not benefit from growing their emotional intelligence, in my opinion, just because we have seen the benefits of it and we've seen what it's done for people from all walks of life.
That's great.
Okay, question number 2. How have you grown because of doing this podcast? What does this look like for you personally?
So honestly, it's speaking of emotional fitness program, it's part of my emotional fitness program. It's cathartic for me to share my lessons. One of the things that I talk about and that I've done on a lot of other podcasts is go aped, APED, acknowledge, give yourself permission to feel, express, and discuss. One of the huge parts of getting emotional healing is discussing it with somebody. And as a podcaster, I'm discussing it with all of you, my own emotional growth journey, my lessons learned, my takeaways. And so it's been very helpful also to, so number one, I'm learning a lesson, but then you learn it differently when you're communicating it to somebody else. It's a whole nother level of refinement and ownership, and understanding when, again, not only am I assimilating it for application in my own life, but then now I've got to put it in such a way that hopefully communicates value to those folks that are, tuning into the YouTube channel and podcast. So for me, it's part of my ongoing emotional fitness program.
And do you feel like there's any ways that your emotional intelligence or your EQ has grown because you've been doing a podcast?
Well, yeah, absolutely. One of the areas that I was a complete train wreck on, I'm a recovering people pleaser addict. I think I invented ADD and ADHD, had no focus, was terribly inconsistent, no follow through, starter of 100 books or projects and not finish any of them. And so it has been, I feel, part of my emotional discipline now, because to think that I have put out 2 podcast episodes every week for 2 years straight is insanity.
It's huge.
Right. For me,
it's a big W.
If you all knew me, I was consistently inconsistent.
This is true.
And so, the to have 2 years track record. Yeah. So to say that I've grown just for the sake of doing the podcast is huge. The third thing I would say is, because I'm a content creator, and specifically in the area of emotional intelligence and emotional health, and it's great because I'm also a professional learner. I feel I love learning, and I've always loved learning. Well, I don't say always, but I learned it from my parents and stuff. That's another whole other episode. My brain is always on point, so to speak, to pick up lessons. I'm a lesson collector of emotional health and emotional intelligence, internally and externally. Oh man, did Kathy share something that I could share that maybe one of her lessons learned, one of my lessons learned, some guy at jiu-jitsu, somebody on the street, that I can. So I'm a collector. I'm a miner of lessons of emotional intelligence, which again, it keeps it on the forefront of my being, because I know, snap, I gotta put out two episodes a week. And some of those obviously are interviews, but most of them are solo episodes that anyway. So that's, yeah, definitely I've grown as a result of doing the podcast.
That's awesome. And did you hit your 2021 podcast goals? Did you go into 2021 having any goals? And if so, did you hit them? How did that go?
Yeah, so great question. And I would love to even share that. So, for those of you all that, again, are watching on YouTube, you're going to see me messing around with my laptop here. I have all my podcast goals on my phone, and my phone is being used right now to record this episode. So yeah, I wrote down January 21st, I believe, of last year. I wrote down about 10 different podcast goals, and I want to share. I think it's just worth it to share with you all what my goals were last year. So this is January 1st, 2021. Number one, help at least 250 people grow their emotional health and emotional intelligence. Now, what's tough is, so did I hit that goal? Possibly. I wish I had the answer to that. So maybe through all the different ways that I reach people, possibly. So through podcasting, now, obviously as a podcaster, I have no way of knowing how many people I've helped or impacted, number one. So possibly there. My I was part of a you guys have heard some of the stories, but part of a business cult for 20 some years. And for those folks that, were healing emotionally along with us, from hearing all of our journey, that's a number of people from that group. And then the EQ Mafia, boom, the EQ Mafia, right? So we've helped out a number of folks in the EQ Mafia. And then speaking engagements. I've done a number of speaking engagements, corporate groups, military groups. So
I think you're well over 250.
Well, I don't know. Possibly. So next goal, create more systems. Now that one's not very accurate. Yes, I have definitely developed more systems over the past year. I still need to do a lot more systems, but so I've kind of hit that goal. Next one, upgrade podcasting equipment. I have done that. And probably still have more to do down the road, but right now that is a check, yes. Next one, podcast guest on at least 20 different podcasts. I have to do the math. I haven't added them all together for this year, but it's probably closer to 40 to 50. So I've doubled that goal, which is really cool. That's really exciting. My other goal was reach 75,000 downloads. We're probably close to 50,000.
Just shy, almost there.
Yep. So maybe 49,000 right now. So we might hit it by the new year. We'll see. Take at least 2 EQ courses to continue my own emotional growth journey. I've taken 1 emotional healthy discipleship, emotional intelligence course. I took a 5 behaviors of a cohesive team course that, definitely is impacted by emotional intelligence and emotional health. I got certified as an EQ practitioner, the 3rd course, and then I'm also working on a professional coaching certification. So I've actually doubled that. I'm doing 4 courses I've done or doing 4 courses there. Next one, study at least 6 books on emotional intelligence and emotional health. Definitely failed at that. I've been working through probably 2 or 3 books the whole year that I've just kind of been stayed in and working through. Before I was so quantity focused, like, oh man, I read more books than you. I read 1 book a month, or I read 2 books a month. Look how bad of the bone I am, right? People-pleasing addiction, total performance-based mindset, and now, because I'm healed from all that garbage, now I want quality of learning, not necessarily quantity of learning. I want to make sure I get the lessons in. So anyway, bottom line is I failed on that and probably should not even set that particular number goal. Next one, attend at least 1 podcasting conference. I did not attend any podcasting conferences this coming year. I definitely want to hit a podcasting conference. Next one, as a military veteran, break into the military veteran community to help active duty and former military service members grow their own emotional health and emotional intelligence. super cool. Just in the past month or two, I got invited to be a part of a military podcaster network called the Lima Charlie Network. The Lima Charlie Network, which I'm super excited to be a part of. Some phenomenal military, active duty and veteran podcasters in that network. And so just, again, super cool that happened within the last couple months. Final one, be much more effective and intentional at marketing and creating systems for our marketing. At least 2 posts per week on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Definitely have not hit that goal. Our social media marketing and stuff still
working on it.
Yeah, has a lot of room to improve. But we have gotten more intentional this last quarter for sure, more than any other time during the year. So it's a very slow glide path right now on that marketing one. So anyway, those were my goals for 2021.
Speaking of which, if you are on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, connect with us. It's Noble Gibbons on LinkedIn, EQ Gangster everywhere else. We'd love to connect with you there. So this year you've kind of created 3 distinct areas within your business. We've got the EQ Gangster, you've got EQ Mafia, and EQ Boss. Can you tell us, what is your vision for each of those 3 areas of your business?
So EQ Gangster is the front face for la-di-da-di everybody. That's kind of like for the masses. EQ Mafia is for those people that are wanting to level up their emotional fitness, which is, can be for anybody, but it's obviously for people that are, want to be a lot more intentional on their emotional fitness program and be a part of a safe, supportive, encouraging, equipping community of other like-minded people that are also working on their emotional fitness. And
that's a membership where people pay on a monthly basis and they get exclusive content, training, and we really are working toward helping people really implement and make change. So that's where that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a bunch of recorded content in there, video and workbooks.
Including our entire course, EQ Accelerator is in there.
That's right. 8-week course, is in there. We also have, in the EQ Mafia, we go live in a kind of a group training, group coaching, dynamic group environment, whatever, twice a month. But one of those 2 times a month, we bring in a guest speaker, a SME, a subject matter expert, talking about different aspects of emotional health and emotional intelligence. So tremendous value in the Mafia, in the EQ Mafia, if you're ready to level up and take your emotional fitness to the next level. And then EQ Boss is for those corporate executives, those military leaders, those senior leaders, those entrepreneurs, those business leaders that want one-on-one personalized coaching. That's what the EQ Boss program is all about.
Nice. So of all these interviews that you have done, which one surprised you the most?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I get, and part of this is because I'm such a voracious, I love learning. Like, I don't know if I'm addicted to learning, but I love learning. And so every single interview that I have done, I have gotten value from personal value. And so if my audience gets value, obviously that's bonus, that's gravy. But that's kind of how I assess if it's a good interview, is if I'm getting something out of it. If it's giving me a new insight, a new epiphany, that kind of thing. So I guess one of the biggest insights I've gotten were from a couple of the recent ones. One, Amy Fiedler, she's a big baller life coach. She's on Instagram, and I think it's Amy the Life Coach is her channel that you can find her, or I think maybe even amyfiedler.com. May even be amythelifecoach.com. Don't quote me on that one, but for sure it's Amy the Life Coach on Instagram. She is super self-aware. She helped me make some connections that I have been struggling with for a while, and that was recent, within this last couple weeks even. And then also I got a lot out of Dr. Mark Mayfield interview as well, who was just either right after or right before my interview with Amy. And he just wrote a book on loneliness, which is phenomenal. That's another book that I'm working on right now. And so he also shared some really interesting epiphanies about loneliness and connection. And so those were a couple really good interviews. But honestly, and this is not, I'm not, here's another one. I just had another one that I haven't even launched it yet with a Navy SEAL, Alden Mills. Super dude. Kind of caught him off guard and stuff with the whole interview. He had a kind of a scheduling thing, was not tracking it, and then boom, he jumped on. Hey man, I'm sorry, sorry I'm late. And I said, hey, no sweat, no big deal. And then I jumped into some questions, and it was steak, fire. So that's another great. But honestly, like I said, I haven't had an interview yet where I'm like, oh man, that was like a waste of an hour that I'll never get back. I haven't had that yet, honestly. And I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm not trying to say it's not about me. It's about the people. I've just got some amazing people that have really shared some tremendous insights. Lee Rivas, Eric Lopez, Kelly Fairbrother, Bethany Matheson. She's a trauma therapist, shared some great insights. Daniel Hagedorn, emotionally intelligent parenting. Stephanie Pinto, raising emotionally intelligent children. A bunch of great phenomenal. And I hate one I just did. Ed Stover. He's one of my West Point classmates. He had some great, interesting concepts on relationships and just some great reminders on relationships. Darcy Lybeck. She's the Darcy Schnack. Sorry, Darcy, if you ever probably won't ever hear this, but anyway, she's the director for the Center for Enhanced Performance at West Point. She's a full-bird colonel, and she talked about the gratitude bridge, how building gratitude leads to increased confidence. What? I was like, what? How on earth? And she shares it in the podcast episode on how how gratitude leads to confidence. Kate Shattuck, I can't wait to release that one. She's a big baller corporate executive in Manhattan, or I don't know where she's at right now, but anyway, she's a big baller executive, some zillion-dollar company. Also shared some phenomenal insights. Pat Gray, another one of my classmates, shared some phenomenal insights. He's a big corporate executive recruiter, recruits C-level folks. Anyway, just I can go on and on and on. Just some amazing interviews that I have gotten a tremendous amount of, which is another thing that's been a blessing as a learner. Like the fact that I get to interview people, and like I love it. I love learning from people. Everyone's got a story. Everyone has got Rob Decker. He's got a crazy story, y'all. Crazy story. We go to church together, and this dude, y'all, you have not heard a story like this dude. I'm just telling you right now. It's a little sneak peek here. Rob Decker jumped out of a 3rd-story building, tried to kill himself, didn't, landed on his back, broke his neck, got handcuffed, immediately handcuffed because his girlfriend or wife at the time, it was just, it's crazy, y'all, this dude's journey. His parents, if I'm not mistaken, both his parents were drug addicts at one point. Growing up as a kid, like it's just this dude, and now he's this very successful personal trainer, fitness trainer. Now he's got a fitness business. Amazing what he's done with his life. That's another amazing episode. Rob Decker, and again, I could go on and on. I'm not trying to leave anybody out, but I've been blessed to interview some really phenomenal people, and I've got some people lined up for the new year too, as well. I can't, anyway, just I've got some great people. Again, I'd really encourage you guys to go back, check out some of those other episodes and stuff, because you will learn something, I'm telling you, from every single interview.
So you've not only have you interviewed a whole bunch of people on the podcast, but you have been coaching your corporate clients for this whole year. You've been coaching corporate clients. So can you describe one, either coaching client or interaction with one of your coaching client that has moved you in the way that they have transformed due to growing their emotional intelligence?
So, and please understand, I'm not trying to be arrogant or cocky when I say this. Coaching for whatever reason, is one of my superpowers.
Oh, 100%.
And now I haven't ever been able to really do that or be that my best self, so to speak, until my emotional growth and emotional healing, which is actually this question really relates to this tattoo on my hand. Again, if you're on the podcast, I'm just explaining to you. It's like a Christmas present, a gift that's on fire. And then I've got 2T 1, 6, and 7 on my knuckles. And it's 2 Timothy 1, 6, and 7. Fan into flame the gift that God has given you. Verse 7, for he has not given you a spirit of fear or of timidity, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Finally, I can be a world-class coach that I was meant to be, because I'm not self-sabotaging and self-condemning and imposter syndrome and self-hatred anymore. I can be that world-class coach that I feel God has called me to be. And so it has been so rewarding. Every single one of the people that I have coached in the past 12 months have all made transformation in their lives personally. And the beauty of emotional intelligence, it doesn't just impact your professional life and make you a better leader, a better executive, a better CEO, a better entrepreneur, a better military leader. It also makes you a better husband, a better wife, a better parent, a better father, mother, son, daughter, the whole nine. It transforms your life from the inside out, personally and professionally, at least the way I like to coach. And so, there's one guy, a guy named Ryan. He is an international director and, kind of just helped launch this other this other company. And he, so he's this international director. He's a senior executive. And he's one of the episodes that, you guys may or may not have heard.
You interviewed him on the podcast.
Yep. He's on already in an episode already. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I just did my last coaching session with him of the year. And literally it was like 40 to 50 minutes of how his life has changed as a result of him applying this EQ stuff. Another guy, a guy named Nick, amazing dude, also senior executive, very, very successful guy in the business world. And initially, empathy was not super high up as one of the areas that he had, a lot of. And after 12 months, y'all, the get emotional thing about this guy, he's a better father, he's a better husband, he's a better executive. This guy, it's unbelievable, this transformation that this dude has made. And again, empathy was, was not one of his strong points at the beginning of the year. And now just the transformation that this guy has made in the past 12 months of one-on-one coaching each month it's just been, almost overwhelming to see. His 13-year-old daughter wrote him a thank you card. You are the best dad in the world. Thank you so much for being available. He's like, dude, my daughter would have never written this. Well, she has never written a letter like this to me prior to this experience. And so anyway, just that there's this, I could go into so many different people that have made some amazing transformations. So anyway, those are a couple off the top of my head.
That's great. What question do you wish more people would ask about emotional intelligence?
How to consistently apply, develop, create, implement an emotional fitness program.
Oh, are you going to be addressing that at any point? How to create an emotional fitness program?
Yeah, I have said that in a lot of the different podcast episodes that I guessed at. I have not, I don't know that I've done it on any one of mine yet, but yeah, I have shared that with a lot of different episodes.
But I'm saying this because coming up in the new year, you are going to be hosting a challenge that you guys can join.
Boom. What?
Gotta promote this.
Well, she is the promoter. She is a ninja at that. So yeah, so we are going to be doing an emotional fitness challenge the first that first week in January, the first or second week in January, sometime in January, for those that are wanting to level up their emotional fitness program, we're going to do, it's going to be daily, 5 days, every day. And if you're ready to no joke, take your emotional health to the next level, this challenge is going to be fire.
So if you want to get on the email list, go to eqgangster.com. You'll see a spot there. You can get on the email list. And in fact, if you want to kind of get yourself ready for it, you can download the free course. Just hit free course on eqgangster.com, and that'll put you onto our email list. You'll also be able to watch the free course that Noble created. So it'll give you the foundation for emotional intelligence. And then as soon as we're ready to launch the challenge, you will know about it. So just FYI, that's where you can go. What impact on the world do you hope the EQ Gangster podcast and then also the EQ Mafia has? How do you want to change the world with this?
So, great question. Emotionally healthy leaders create emotionally healthy cultures and organizations, which lead to and or create and maximize great outcomes and results. And now, there are leaders and cultures and organizations that create and maximize outcomes and results, but leave a wake of dead bodies in the path of high attrition, low retention, very toxic workplaces. And I want to be a part of making the world a better place by helping leaders become healthier emotionally and realizing how their emotions could be limiting and or hindering them in ways that most likely they don't even know. Many people that are successful for emotionally unhealthy reasons. And so, I've got a 5-fold mission statement to positively impact millions of people for the kingdom of God, to positively influence the influencers, to raise the next generation to be patriotic world changers, to love the Lord their God with all their heart, mind, soul, spirit, and body. And number 5, to help hungry people identify and pursue their purpose in life. And so anyway, so that is how I want to use the EQ Gangster podcast, EQ Mafia, EQ Boss programs to create emotionally healthy leaders, to create emotionally healthy cultures and organizations, which lead to phenomenal, outstanding outcomes and results.
That's great. So last question that I have is, I would say that you are definitely getting up there with being an experienced podcaster. Is there any advice that you would have if there's anybody who's listening who is considering starting a podcast? Maybe there's something that they are passionate about, or they have a story to tell, or they want to start a business or something. Any advice you'd give to somebody who's considering or is just starting a podcast?
So 1 is, why do you want to start a podcast? 2, what emotions and feelings do you have around starting a podcast? Some may be pleasant emotions, some may be unpleasant emotions. 3, what is the narrative and the scripts around you starting a podcast? Some may be productive scripts and some may be unproductive or unhealthy scripts. If you don't identify those unpleasant emotions, unproductive, unhealthy scripts and narrative, those will end up self-sabotaging you over the long run at some point in the journey. Realize there's only one you on the planet. Nobody has your story. Well, but I want to do a leadership thing and there's a million. Well, great. But guess what? None of those leadership people have your story, or none of those music people, or none of those art people, or none of those business people, none of those finance people. Like, no one else has your story. Nobody has it. So you have a unique voice. And, one guy we heard said it took him 100 podcast episodes for him to figure out what his voice even was. So once you do that initial homework, then, one of the things that we did was we brainstormed probably 100 to 200 topics that we could talk about, for our podcast. So, because if we're going to do 2 a month, That means, 150 to 200 topics. That's going to, that'll take us through, a handful of months. And then I could figure out some other ones along the way. But now I'm like, okay, now I've got, quite a few topics that I can, that's a lot of episodes basically, right? Well, of that original 150, 200 topic list, it's probably grown to 300 topics under the EQ umbrella. And I've probably, from that particular list, only talked about 15 to 20 of those topics. So I still haven't even hit really the majority of that list yet. I haven't even scratched the surface yet. So once you go through all that emotional work and figure out what's going on, the narratives, the emotions, the feelings, stuff like that, and you work to, okay, what are some healthy scripts and narratives that you can replace those unhealthy, unproductive narratives and scripts with, then figure out all the logistics. In fact, I created a video, and you don't have to use mine. There's a lot of people out there, how to start a podcast, just YouTube. How do you start a podcast? There's podcasts on how to start a podcast, right? So then just go do it. Figure out how often you want to do it. You want to do it once a week, twice a week. She's starting her own podcast.
Yes.
Next month. She's starting a podcast. What's it called, babe?
It's called Filter It Through Brain Cell. It is going to be all about how to think, recognizing logical fallacies, thinking errors, your own thinking biases. And we're going to just draw things from the world around us, from the headlines, from social media, from weird things people say, and just teach. Because there's actually names to them. I had no idea until our daughter read a book in the 7th grade that there's names for all these ways that people think wrongly, improper thinking. And I was doing a whole bunch of them and I was falling for them. And once I learned them and learned the names, I didn't fall for them anymore. And so I just feel like our world today does not know how to think. This is not something that we are taught in school at all. And we should be. And this is my effort to bring this to the world.
Think about how nuts it is that the majority of Americans have never been taught how to think.
Right.
How nuts is that?
We're taught what to think. School teaches us what. It fills our head with, here's what we want you to think. Here's what we want you to think, what we want you to think. But nobody teaches us how to think. Nobody teaches us how to recognize good thinking from bad thinking, good logic from poor logic. And so they're going to be super short episodes, 5 to 10 minutes max each, because I want this to be very simple to listen to, very practical and applicable. And yeah, I'm excited.
And, teens are going to be able to get value from it. Adults will be able to get value from it. So what's it called again?
Filter It Through Brain Cell. It's not out there yet. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, the day this podcast drops, it is not there. The only place it is at is on Instagram. So you can find me at Instagram, Filter It Through Brain Cell, but it is not on any of the podcast applications yet, podcast apps yet, but it's coming in January.
So that will be phenomenal. So what do you want to share with the world? What lessons do you want to share? What are some lessons that you've been collecting through your life? Who do you like to serve? What audience do you like to serve? Who is your target audience? And who brings the best out of you? Who do you want to add value to? All those questions, right, are great things to consider when starting a podcast. And then just start it. Are you going to have all the stuff figured out? We are serial entrepreneurs for 20, 25 years. One of the entrepreneur mottos that we've taken, from the jump is a lot of times we like to jump and build our airplane on the way down. And a lot of times that's what entrepreneurship is. That's what podcasting is. Are you going to know everything there is to know about podcasting on day one of podcasting? Absolutely not. This network that I'm a part of, this podcasting network of military podcasters, the Lima Charlie Network, every single one of those folks knows stuff that I don't know about podcasting. And I've been doing it for 2 years now. One guy's been doing it for 8 years. There's so much that I can learn from every single one of these folks. So, and I'm at episode 200. So again, give yourself a lot of grace, a lot of patience. Realize it may take you, again, 50, 100 episodes just to dial in your voice and to figure out, who you want to talk to and what your content is going to be. It just may take time. Set yourself some non-negotiables, your frequency, your consistency, and then do not waver. because part of it is you're training your audience. If you just kind of, oh, I'm going to do an episode here, an episode there, kind of when you feel like it, don't expect that there's going to be any type of audience that's going to be consistent with following you if you're not consistent. So consistency is a massive thing for podcasters to really help kind of grow an audience. So thank you all so much for listening again, for being a part of the journey with us.
And congratulations, babe, for hitting 200.
Gorgeous.
I'm so proud of you. I think it's amazing. You've done an amazing job. The podcast is having a huge impact, and I think it's incredible. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, gorgeous. So again, please take 15, 20 seconds to rate and review, share, subscribe. Really appreciate it. Again, thanks for letting us be a part of this journey with you and you being a part of our journey. And remember, emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally.